Welcome back to our channel. Today's story is about a humble mechanic who completely transformed the life of a young, paralyzed CEO. Ava Bennett, just 19, had lost hope when her wheelchair broke down and no one could fix it. But Lucas Reed, a 33-year-old skilled mechanic, stepped in with patience, determination, and heart. With every adjustment and test, Ava began to regain her independence, while her mother Rachel watched in awe. This is a story of hope, kindness, and life-changing moments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. The streets of Los Angeles were damp from a light afternoon drizzle, the neon reflections glinting on wet pavement as Lucas Reed, 33, male, wiped the grease from his hands and prepared to close his small garage. It had been a long day of repairing everything from old sedans to vintage motorcycles, yet his dedication never wavered. Just as he was locking the front door, bright headlights flashed through the open garage entrance. Lucas squinted against the light, trying to make out the figure approaching. A sleek black wheelchair rolled forward, its frame battered and wires hanging loosely. In it sat Ava Bennett, 19, female, a paralyzed CEO of a rising tech startup, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. Behind her, Rachel Bennett, 42, female, billionaire businesswoman and mother, stepped carefully, her expensive heels clicking softly on the wet pavement. Her face carried both urgency and apprehension. She had exhausted every mechanic in the city, yet none could repair the chair that allowed her daughter's independence. The tension in the air was palpable, a mixture of desperation, expectation, and hope. Lucas stepped forward cautiously, brushing off the remnants of the day's work. "Can you fix this?" Ava asked in a voice barely above a whisper, her eyes wide as they studied him. Lucas took a deep breath, bending closer to examine the damaged wheelchair. The chair was in worse shape than Lucas had anticipated. Frayed wires hung from the joystick, gears were bent and rusted, and the battery compartment showed signs of previous, unsuccessful repairs. He ran his fingers along the frame, noting the stress fractures in the metal and the misaligned wheels. Lucas knew this wasn't going to be easy. "I'll do my best," he replied firmly, his tone carrying a confidence that contrasted with Ava's nervousness. Rachel's eyes flickered between Lucas and her daughter, silently evaluating whether this man could succeed where countless others had failed. Ava's hands rested lightly on the armrests of her wheelchair, trembling slightly with anticipation. She had spent weeks confined indoors, unable to attend meetings, navigate her home, or feel the freedom she once took for granted. This chair was more than a machine. It was her lifeline, her independence, and her confidence. Lucas's gaze softened as he recognized the weight of responsibility in his hands. He crouched beside the wheelchair, inspecting each gear and wire with meticulous care. Each component told a story of wear, misalignment, and prior unsuccessful repairs. The garage itself was quiet, except for the soft patter of rain on the roof and the hum of the city in the distance. Tools were scattered across the workbench, and a faint smell of oil and metal lingered in the air. Lucas pulled out his set of precision screwdrivers, pliers, and testing devices, readying himself for the delicate task ahead. Rachel stepped back, her arms crossed, observing silently. She had hoped for a miracle, but Lucas's methodical approach gave her a cautious optimism she hadn't felt in weeks. Ava watched every movement, her hope growing with each careful inspection. Lucas began by testing the joystick. It sparked slightly but refused to respond fully. He traced the wiring from the joystick to the control panel, finding several frayed connections that had likely caused repeated failures in the past. Using his tools, he carefully rewired each connection, double-checking that the solder joints were secure and insulated. Ava leaned in, fascinated by the precision required, her eyes lighting up with a mixture of curiosity and relief. She whispered softly, "Thank you." "And for even trying." Lucas smiled faintly, recognizing that this small acknowledgement carried immense emotional weight. Next, he examined the gears controlling the movement of the wheels. Rust and misalignment had caused severe strain on the chair's frame, and a few teeth were broken entirely. Lucas dismantled the affected components, carefully replacing damaged gears with high-quality parts he had in his garage. Each turn of the screwdriver required patience and focus, as even a small misalignment could render the chair unusable. Rachel watched with increasing admiration, realizing that Lucas's skills were exceptional, not just in technical ability, but in his care and attention to detail. Hours passed, and the first stage of repair was complete. Lucas had reconnected wires, replaced gears, and tested the basic functions. Ava cautiously gripped the joystick, tentative movement sending the chair a few inches forward. Her eyes widened as she realized it responded to her commands, even if imperfectly. A small smile broke across her face, and Lucas offered an encouraging nod. "We're making progress," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. Rachel exhaled softly, a mixture of relief and hope washing over her as she saw her daughter regain control. Even just a little, Lucas continued to test, adjust, and refine the wheelchair throughout the evening. Each correction improved responsiveness, making the chair more stable and reliable. He explained his work to Ava, teaching her how the joystick connected to the motors and how the gears translated commands into movement. Ava listened intently, absorbing every word, thrilled at the chance to understand her own mobility. Rachel occasionally offered water or a warm smile. Her initial skepticism now replaced with trust and admiration for Lucas's dedication. As night fell over Los Angeles, the garage was illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights. Lucas wiped sweat from his brow, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a quiet satisfaction. Ava's wheelchair was beginning to move almost fluidly, her confidence building with every inch traveled. Rachel stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on Ava's shoulder, her eyes glistening. The young CEO's independence, once compromised, was slowly being restored. Lucas's determination, skill, and patience were turning a desperate situation into a glimmer of hope for both mother and daughter. By the end of the night, the first phase of the repair was complete. Ava could maneuver small distances with guidance, and Lucas felt confident that with continued work, the wheelchair would be fully functional. The garage, once a quiet place of work, had transformed into a space of trust, hope, and emotional connection. Ava's smile, tentative but genuine, reflected the relief and excitement of someone finally seeing a solution. Lucas looked at her, determined to finish what he had started. The storm outside had slowed to a drizzle, the city lights reflecting on the wet pavement. Lucas stepped back, assessing his work. The wheelchair was far from perfect, but it was alive again, responding to Ava's touch. "We'll get there," he said softly. Ava nodded, hope shining in her eyes. Rachel's pride and gratitude were evident, a silent acknowledgement that Lucas had begun a journey that would change their lives. That single garage on that rainy Los Angeles night had become the birthplace of trust, determination, and the possibility of restored independence. The following morning, the Los Angeles sun barely peeked through light clouds, casting soft illumination across Lucas Reed's small garage. Lucas, 33 male, arrived early, already gathering his tools and spare parts. The wheelchair sat in the center, still showing signs of strain from the previous day's repair, yet its mechanisms had begun to respond more consistently. Ava Bennett, 19, female paralyzed CEO, wheeled herself in carefully, her eyes alight with cautious anticipation. She had spent restless nights thinking about what progress Lucas might have made, wondering if she would finally feel some semblance of independence again. The tension in the garage mingled with hope. Lucas crouched beside the wheelchair, inspecting the joystick first. Small adjustments had already improved responsiveness, but some wires still required precise calibration. Each wire, each sensor, and each motor connection had to be perfectly aligned for smooth motion. Lucas worked with meticulous focus, adjusting tiny screws, soldering connections, and testing circuits repeatedly. Ava watched intently, leaning closer each time Lucas explained the function of each component. Her curiosity matched her excitement. She whispered softly, "I think it's moving better already." Lucas smiled and nodded, encouraging her patience. Rachel Bennett, 42, female, billionaire mother, observed silently from the corner, her eyes reflecting a growing admiration for his skill and dedication. By late morning, Lucas had replaced several damaged gears, aligning them with precision to ensure balance and smooth operation. Ava sat tensely, holding the joystick lightly as she tried small movements. The wheelchair responded inch by inch, and her face lit up with exhilaration. Laughter, soft at first, began to echo across the garage. For the first time in months, she felt capable again. Rachel's lips curled in a faint smile, her hands clasped tightly in quiet relief. Watching her daughter's confidence grow under Lucas's guidance was almost as rewarding as the repair itself. Lunch passed unnoticed as Lucas continued working. He adjusted the motor speed, tested the braking system, and ensured the wheels could handle slight inclines without slipping. Ava practiced small maneuvers under his supervision, moving forward, backward, and turning gently. Each successful attempt reinforced her courage. Lucas offered gentle corrections, never rushing, his voice calm and reassuring. "That's perfect," he said when she managed a full turn. Ava's smile widened, the tension of months of immobility melting away. Rachel silently nodded, understanding that this mechanic was doing more than repairs. He was restoring her daughter's autonomy. As the day progressed, Lucas demonstrated how minor adjustments to the joystick could control speed and direction. Ava eagerly mimicked his demonstrations, experimenting with small circles, spins, and turns. Each success brought bursts of laughter that filled the garage with a sense of triumph. Lucas encouraged her gently, celebrating every tiny victory. Rachel, standing slightly back, felt a deep appreciation for Lucas's patience and the connection forming between him and her daughter. It was not just technical skill. It was care, attention, and understanding that transformed the repair into a meaningful experience. By the second day, Lucas had fine-tuned the wheelchair to near perfection. Ava's movements were precise and confident. She navigated around obstacles Lucas had placed strategically to simulate real-world conditions. Each turn and adjustment she made independently strengthened her belief in her own abilities. Lucas watched closely, offering subtle guidance, but allowing her the freedom to experiment. Rachel's eyes glistened with pride, marveling at the progress her daughter had made in such a short time. The bond between mechanic, CEO, and mother had deepened, built on trust, patience, and shared determination. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the garage as Ava began testing longer movements. She maneuvered smoothly from one side to another, spinning lightly in celebration. Lucas stepped back slightly, allowing her space, feeling a surge of satisfaction. "You're doing amazing," he encouraged. Ava's laughter was pure and unrestrained, her eyes sparkling with renewed confidence. Rachel finally stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Ava's shoulder. She whispered, "I've never seen you this happy in months." The warmth of their interaction highlighted the profound emotional impact Lucas's dedication had already achieved. By evening, the wheelchair was fully operational. Lucas ran final checks on all gears, wires, and sensors, ensuring long-term reliability. Ava practiced independently, her confidence now paired with skill. Rachel, observing her daughter's mastery, felt tears welling in her eyes. The room was filled with an atmosphere of triumph, relief, and gratitude. What had started as a simple repair had become an intimate journey of growth, trust, and resilience. Lucas had not only restored mobility, but had reignited hope and independence in Ava's life. As the day came to a close, Lucas cleaned up the garage, organizing tools and double-checking the wheelchair one last time. Ava leaned back in the chair, testing small maneuvers, her smile now radiant and free. "I can really do this," she whispered, exuding confidence and relief. Rachel approached, embracing her daughter briefly, both feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude toward Lucas. The storm of uncertainty and fear that had clouded Ava's life had lifted, replaced with laughter, freedom, and empowerment. Lucas looked on humbly, satisfied that his patient, meticulous work had transformed lives beyond the mechanical realm. The garage, bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon, felt alive with the echoes of Ava's laughter. Lucas stepped outside briefly to breathe in the evening air, reflecting on the remarkable journey of the past 2 days. He understood the weight of his role, not just as a mechanic, but as someone who had helped restore hope, confidence, and independence to a young woman determined to reclaim her life. The trust, connection, and shared triumph between them formed an unspoken bond that would remain long after the wheelchair had been repaired. The third morning in Los Angeles dawned clear and bright, the sun reflecting off wet pavement from the previous night's drizzle. Lucas Reed, 33, male, stood beside Ava Bennett, 19, female paralyzed CEO, who sat poised in her fully repaired wheelchair. The chair gleamed under the soft sunlight, every gear and wire meticulously adjusted to perfection. Ava's fingers hovered over the joystick, her heart racing with anticipation. This was the moment she had waited for, the chance to move freely again, beyond the walls of the garage. Lucas offered a reassuring nod, his calm presence giving her the courage to take the first step. Ava pushed the joystick gently forward. The wheelchair responded smoothly, gliding across the pavement with precision. Her eyes widened in disbelief and delight as she steered effortlessly around small obstacles Lucas had placed for practice. A soft breeze brushed her hair, and for the first time in months she felt true freedom. She spun the chair in small circles, laughter bubbling from her lips, echoing across the quiet street. Lucas watched proudly, his hands on his knees, ensuring she remained safe while reveling in the visible joy of her regained independence. Rachel Bennett, 42, female billionaire mother, stood a few steps back, her hands clasped tightly and tears welling in her eyes. She had feared this day would never come, that her daughter would remain restricted by a broken chair and limited mobility. Watching Ava maneuver the wheelchair with confidence and ease, Rachel felt a rush of gratitude and admiration for Lucas. She approached slowly, her voice trembling slightly. "You didn't just fix her wheelchair, you gave her life back," she said. Lucas shook his head modestly, his humility evident. "I just did what anyone would," he replied softly, though his heart swelled with quiet pride. Ava continued to explore the open space, spinning gently and practicing turns. Each movement was precise and fluid, a testament to Lucas's dedication and meticulous work. The sunlight caught on the polished metal of the wheelchair, highlighting every detail he had repaired and adjusted. Ava's laughter, clear and joyful, rang out across the empty street, a sound that seemed to fill the world with renewed hope. Lucas's gaze followed her carefully, ready to assist if necessary, yet allowing her the freedom she had longed for. Rachel, now standing closer, observed the bond forming between her daughter and Lucas. The quiet communication, the trust and mutual respect were palpable. She had initially doubted that a humble mechanic could achieve what so many professionals had failed to do. But Lucas's patience and skill had transformed her skepticism into awe. Her tears reflected pride, relief, and profound gratitude, not just for the repaired wheelchair, but for the kindness and integrity Lucas had shown throughout the process. Word of Lucas's remarkable work spread quickly across Los Angeles. Neighbors and passers-by noticed Ava's wheelchair gliding smoothly, her laughter attracting attention. Local news outlets covered the story of the humble mechanic who had restored the independence of a young CEO, highlighting his dedication and compassion. Lucas, once known only in his small garage, suddenly found himself recognized as a community hero. Yet he remained humble, focusing on the joy and freedom he had helped restore, rather than seeking personal acclaim. Ava's confidence grew with every maneuver. She navigated through small alleys, around parked cars, and even up gentle inclines with ease. Each successful movement strengthened her independence, her laughter ringing out freely. Lucas followed alongside, ensuring her safety while marveling at the transformation before his eyes. Rachel observed closely, her heart swelling with pride. The combination of skill, patience, and compassion had not only repaired a wheelchair, but had reignited Ava's spirit, giving her a sense of autonomy she hadn't felt in months. By late morning, Ava and Lucas returned to the garage for final adjustments and checks. Lucas ensured all gears were properly aligned, wires secured, and controls responsive. Ava maneuvered expertly, demonstrating the full capabilities of her chair. Rachel, standing nearby, embraced her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, gratitude evident in every syllable. Lucas smiled, quietly satisfied that his work had made such a profound difference. The simple act of fixing a chair had become a catalyst for renewed independence, joy, and emotional healing. As the day drew to a close, Ava navigated freely around the streets near the garage, her movements precise and confident. Lucas watched, proud yet humble, recognizing that the real reward was witnessing her regained freedom and happiness. Rachel, finally able to relax, marveled at the transformation in her daughter. The garage, that had once been a quiet place of work, had become a symbol of hope, perseverance, and human connection. Ava's laughter, Lucas's dedication, and Rachel's pride intertwined, creating a story that would be remembered far beyond the city streets. In the fading light of the afternoon, Ava paused and looked at Lucas. Her eyes sparkled with joy and gratitude. "I can finally go anywhere, do anything. Thanks to you," she said softly. Lucas's heart warmed at the words. Rachel approached them, wrapping both in a heartfelt embrace. The sunlight reflected off the wheelchair's polished surface, symbolizing the renewed light in Ava's life. That day, Lucas Reed, humble mechanic, had transformed not just a chair, but an entire world for Ava Bennett, leaving a lasting impact on her life and her family forever.